Today we are going to do my tier ranking of all the books that I read in 2024. If you're new here, my name is Gabrielle and I read romance, fantasy, and I'm also an aspiring author. Now this is not the first time I've tried to film this video. I've actually tried to film this video 3 times before this, and I have had technical difficulties each time. But I think I have understood where I went wrong, and let's get straight into it. These are the tiers that I am working with. And I've kind of used relationship statuses. At the top, we have Tattoo Worthy. These are the books that I want imprinted onto my soul, and they were life-changing, and I want to have a reminder of them forever. God tier books. Next, we have Marriage Material. These books that I absolutely loved and would recommend. Then we have One Night Stand. One Night Stand are books that I enjoyed at the time, had my fun, would probably recommend them, but don't really think about that much anymore. Then we've got Not My Type. These are books that didn't really hit for me. And then we have Should Have Ghosted, which obviously are books that I should have DNF'd. I did DNF last year, but I probably should have DNF'd a couple more. So let's get right into it. First off, I have a couple of the Throne of Glass series. I read maybe most of the series this year, but started it in 2023. Starting with Heir of Fire. This book was amazing, as were all of the books. But this one doesn't stand out to me as one of my absolute favourites. We struggled to get into this one just because there's a lot of new characters to get introduced to, but I am still going to put this in Marriage Material. Then we have Queen of Shadows. Perfection. Absolute perfection. This book was everything, and it's going straight into Tattoo Worthy. When you think back, there's so many parts of this book that were just jaw-dropping and heart in your throat and couldn't put it down worthy. Then we have Empire of Storms, which is the exact same thing. This is probably one of the top books of the entire series for me. Tattoo worthy, straight away. Then we have Tower of Dawn. Again, loved it. Was it my favourite? No. However, I don't get the slander that is on this book because I loved it, and Cale deserved his story. Marriage Material. Next we have Belladonna. I was not expecting to like this book. I thought, I'm not a murder mystery gal, but this one, with the murder mystery mixed with kind of fantasy realism set in a Bridgerton era. Perfection. Marriage Material. Then we have A Photo Finish. This is part of the Gold Rush Ranch series, and this was probably my favourite one out of the series. And this one follows the Eaton sister, so the sister of the brothers from the Chestnut Springs series. This one was good, but it didn't hit as much as the Chestnut Springs series, so I'm going to put this in One Night Stand. Then we have Swift and Saddled, which is by Lila Sage. This is the second book after Done and Dusted, which is the Rebel Blue Ranch series, I'm sure. Again, I had fun reading this at the time and I did enjoy it, but I don't think about it much anymore, so One Night Stand. Then we have Brood and Magic. This is the second book in this kind of cosy fantasy series. They're all standalones. This one did not hit for me as much as the first one, and I don't think I will be continuing the series. I'm going to put Not My Type. Next we have Christmas at Chestnut Springs. Literally, this book is about 60 pages. Did I eat up every single moment of it? Do I love the Chestnut Springs boys and will eat up any single moment that I can get with them? Yes. This one is going in Marriage Material. Next we've got the first one in the Gold Rush Ranch series by Elsie Silver. This one was good to start off the series, but it wasn't the best one in the series. I'm going to put One Night Stand. Another cowboy romance is Downpour by Maggie Gates. This is the second book in the Griffith Brothers Ranch series. Can never say that. And this was probably my favourite out of the entire series. This follows a bull rider who was in a bull riding accident and he becomes a paraplegic. And he needs a carer and doesn't get on with any of them. But then this girl comes along with zero caring experience, and she's the one. It gives very much Me Before You vibes, but without the really sad ending. I'm still going to put this one in One Night Stand. Okay, Lady of Darkness. I read the entire series this year, so I think it's 5 books and 2 novellas. So I've just grouped them all into here. Perfection. I have not connected with a series since basically Throne of Glass, and this does give very Throne of Glass vibes. It was everything. I'm going to put it in tattoo worthy. Next we have The Front Runner, another one of the Gold Rush Ranch series. I don't really remember what this one was about. However, I remember having a good time while I was reading it, but that kind of proves my point. We had a good time together, but we don't really think about each other that much anymore. Then we have Quicksilver. This book, everyone was speaking about this year, and for good reason. It is so hard to get you to connect with characters in a standalone book. This is first in a series, and it's very unlikely that I'm going to get so emotionally connected to all of the characters, side characters included, in a first book. But this one delivered. I'm so invested in everyone's stories, and I can't wait to see where this goes. And would I get a butterfly tattoo? Probably. Tattoo worthy. Next, I listened to A Court of Mist and Fury, the graphic audio. I read ACOTAR in 2023, and I thought I would do a little reread when the graphic audio came out on Spotify, and it did not disappoint. I am not an audiobook girly, but the graphic audio made it amazing. The sound effects, the music, the different voices for all the characters. Obsessed. It's going straight in tattoo worthy. Could ACOTAR go any lower than that? Definitely not. Then we've got Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is the epitome of a one night stand. I binged this in one day, absolutely devoured it. It's a marriage of convenience book between a vampire and a werewolf, and it's also part of the Omegaverse. Binged it, loved it. Do I think about it that much anymore? No. Next we have Sovereign. This is a dark cowboy romance. It was kind of like if Christian Grey was a cowboy. I don't think I'm a vibe with the whole domineering relationship spice thing anymore. Never say never, but with this one it kind of gave me the ick, so I'm going to put not my type. Then we have Three Swedish Mountain Men. I read this when it was snowing outside and I wanted something with like snowy vibes, and this is kind of like a snowed in cabin in the woods, why choose, reverse harem, and it was just pure smut. Pure smut. If you love smut, this is for you. If you don't love smut, don't read. I still don't know if Why Choose is for me, but this gave me all the vibes that I wanted at the time. I just wanted an easy read, so we're going straight into One Night Stand. Then we've got Somewhere in the Sunset. I was very kindly sent this as an ARC this year. It is a new adult contemporary romance by Estelle Mascamé. What I thought this book was going to be was not what it was. I thought I was going to get a nice, cringy, easy contemporary romance. I did not get that. The ending of this crushed my soul. I am going to put in not my type just because I'm not really into contemporary romance when it's kind of not a cowboy romance. But if you love contemporary romance, 100% go and read that. Now I'm going to contradict myself here because Passenger Princess, again, is a contemporary romance. However, this one is a bodyguard romance between a pageant queen and her security guard. The slow burn and the spice of this book was perfection. I love Morgan Elizabeth as an author, and I'm going to put this in One Night Stand. Next we have The Veiled Kingdom. I read the first two books in this series this year, so The Veiled Kingdom and The Hunted Heir. If I was just basing it on The Veiled Kingdom, it would probably go in Marriage Material. I binged that book. I loved the spice. I loved the tension. It just fell flat for me for the second book. Not much happened. Really, there was kind of no need for that book. So based on the two books as a whole, I'm going to put One Night Stand. Then we've got The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night at the end of 2023, and this one was slow. It was slow for the first about 60%, and then it really revved up for the last 40%. I loved the last part of the book. However, I just wish it gave me more of the vibes that the first book gave me. So for that reason, I'm going to put this in One Night Stand. Next we have Metal Slinger. Everyone was talking about this book for good reason now that I've read it. For the majority of the book, I did not think it was a 5-star book for me. I thought it was good, I was having a good time, but I didn't see where the hype was coming from until I got to the end. The end was perfection, and I didn't see it coming. I should have saw it coming, but I didn't see it coming. I thought a completely other thing was going to happen, and it didn't. So, for that reason, we're going to go in Marriage Material. Next we have Shucked by Kate Canterbury. I only read this because I read In a Jam before, and I don't even remember what happened in this book. I literally don't remember. I just remember that maybe they both had restaurants and they were rivals. Yeah, I should have ghosted this one because I don't remember it. Then we have The Ever King. This gave me Pirates of the Caribbean with Faye, Enemies to Lovers, and Fated Mates. I really enjoyed it at the time, but I have not felt the urge to pick up the next one. I believe it's in a duology, and I've just not had the urge to pick up the next one. Never say never, but she's going in One Night Stand. Next, I read the first 4 books in the Zodiac Academy, and I did not know what I was missing. If you want a fantasy romance that is easy, bingeable, and absolutely addictive, read Zodiac Academy. I do not know why I put this off for so long, but honestly, I've not even finished the series yet, and I know it's going to be tattoo worthy. Next we have a duology by Karina Halley. We've got Blood Orange and Black Rose. Blood Orange, I loved. It was a witch sent to a vampire who is a professor in a college in Venice, and she falls for him. And the spice, yum. The second book though, did we need that? Probably not. However, with the ending of the first one, I get why we went there. So, we're doing One Night Stand. Next we have Ocean of Sin and Starlight. This is a second book in a duology, again by Karina Halley, where it has mermaids in. All of her books seem to be all connected. They all have vampires in. This one was between a vampire priest and a mermaid. And the whole taboo romance, on top of how I don't love how the mermaids are in this series, just didn't hit for me, so I'm going to say not my type. Then we have King of Country. This was actually the very first book that I read in 2024, and it is a romance between a famous country singer and one of his publicists. And as much as I love country music, I do not love books with fame. I just don't vibe with the whole fame aspect of a lot of books, so I'm going to put this one in not my type. Okay, and next we have Dust Storm. This is the first one in the Griffiths Brothers Ranch series, and I just didn't connect to this one as much. It was a single dad romance. However, the 2 main characters were a fair amount older than me, and I feel like I couldn't relate to their point of view because they were older than me. I can relate to younger because I've been that age, and I feel like I can only really relate to around my age or maybe a bit older. So, for that reason, I'm putting this one in not my type. Next we have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is the second one that came out in the Rose Hill series. And again, with fame in it. So we have a famous singer who is hiding away, recreating herself, making different music than she usually does. And she is staying with single dad on his ranch. And you know what made this book for me? The relationship between the female main character and the oldest son. The oldest son really had confidence issues, and she really brought him out of his shell, and that really almost made me cry. So for that reason, we're going to put this one in One Night Stand. Okay, there will be a couple Christmas books in this one. This one is How My Neighbour Stole Christmas, and this is probably one of my favourite Christmas books that I've ever read. It had Christmas vibes in it, with a Christmas competition. We had basically enemies to lovers. The banter between those 2 was perfection. And the spice. Oh my god, if you're looking for a book for December 2025, this is the one that I would recommend. Honestly, I might change my mind about this, but marriage material. I loved it. Then again, another Christmas book. We have Spectacular by Stephanie Garber. This is a novella. This is a Christmas novella that follows the Caraval series, so if you haven't read the Caraval series, I wouldn't read this one. We do get a little bit from each character from the series, however, it mainly follows Tella, and me and Tella are not friends. I do not agree with how Tella thinks. The story itself is very Caraval coded. Nothing is as it seems. However, me and Tella are just not, we're not meant for each other. I'm much more of a Scarlet girly, so not my type. Next we have The Crow Prince. I read the 3 books in the main trilogy, and honestly I was expecting this to be terrible, but I actually kind of liked it. See if they made this more a fantasy romance with more of Jude and Cardan. I think it would have been perfection. I think it would have been. Jude and Cardan, I love. It's definitely not a fantasy romance series. It's a lot more of a political fantasy. So, I did like, but I wanted more of them, so one night stand. Then we've got Fireline by Maggie Gates. This is the third book in the Griffith Brothers Ranch series, and honestly, I didn't like this one. I was so disappointed by this one. I was expecting so much more from the brother that this followed, but I should have DNF'd. I should have DNF'd. Oh, then we have another Christmas one, The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score. The romance in this is fine. It was another single dad romance. However, the premise of the book I did actually enjoy. So it was a town who had been struck by a hurricane, had loads of damage, and a reality TV star host who does like extreme makeover style TV shows wanted to come in and help them rebuild before their Christmas fair. It wanted to give enemies to lovers, but it didn't. I'm going to put this one in one night stand because honestly, because it was Christmas, I enjoyed it. Next we have The Book of Azrael. I read the first two books in the Gods of Monsters series, and honestly, these books changed my life. The female main character, Diana, is now one of my favourite main characters of all time. She is borderline villainous, and she's such a badass. I just love her. I'm going to put this straight up into tattoo worthy. I cannot wait to continue this series. Then we have Mind and Magic, which is another cozy fantasy following on from Brood and Magic, which I talked about earlier. And this one was not just not my type. I should have ghosted. Should have DNF'd. I will not be continuing the series. I don't think cozy fantasy is for me. If you like low stakes fantasy romance, then you might like this, but I just don't think it's for me. Then we have a little Christmas novella. It was Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood. This book was probably only about 70 pages, and I loved every single page of it. Ali Hazelwood literally can do no wrong. This was a snowed in friends to lovers second chance romance, and if this was a full book, I know I would have loved it. So we're going in one night stand. Next we have Crimson Moth or Heartless Hunter if you're in the US. Wow. Absolutely wow. I am not usually a witch book lover, but this changed the game. The magic system in this was amazing, so unique, and the tension between the two main characters was everything. And the ending? I cannot wait for the next book in this series. It cannot come quick enough. Literally tattoo worthy. Okay, next we have A Dawn of Onyx. I read A Dawn of Onyx and A Promise of Peridot. So the first two in that trilogy. I liked the premise of A Dawn of Onyx. I was expecting something different. So if you don't know, this book has dragon shifters in, and it is not very often that I think dragon shifters are done right. I'm very fussy with my dragon books in particular. The way the second book went, I just didn't love it. I didn't really love the world that was built. I'm really fussy with the vibes that I feel in a book, so I don't know if I will complete this trilogy or not. At the moment, I'm saying no. I'm going to say not my type for this one. Next we have A Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. This is the second book in the Dream Harbour series, which follows A Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I liked A Pumpkin Spice Cafe when I read it. It was a really good palate cleanser. However, this one I didn't love. It was a kind of bucket list romance, so a bookstore owner wanted to experience more life and employed the local fisherman guide to help her do that, and I should have DNF'd. I should have DNF'd. It just wasn't for me. Next we have Alive in Wales by Bailey Hannah. This is probably one of my favourite cowboy romances that I read this year. It gave very similar vibes to Safe Haven, the movie. So it was a woman who was in a toxic marriage and escaped to the middle of nowhere to a ranch in Canada and ended up falling for the grumpy ranch owner. And I loved it. It was kind of dark in some ways, but I kind of loved that it was kind of dark. And yeah, I'm going to say one night stand for this. I did really enjoy it at the time. Then we've got A House of Earth and Blood and A House of Sky and Breath. I read the first two in the Crescent City series, and I did start the third one. However, I'm not prepared for it to be over, so I soft DNF'd that so that I could continue it at another time. The first book was perfection. It was honestly not what I was expecting it to be. I really wasn't expecting to like this series at all, and I was completely surprised. You know, SGM the last 100 pages, wow, my heart nearly stopped. Same with the second book. The second book I thought was quite slow at the start, but again, the ending, obsessed. If you know, you know. We know this is going to go into tattoo worthy. It has to. I love you, Bryce. I love you, Hunt. I love you, Rune. Then we have The Unmaking of June Farrow. This is a fantasy realism book, and it has a little bit of a mystery element to it. I did not know what to expect going into this book, and I do recommend going into it blind, but I was actually pleasantly surprised. This is the book that if you do not read fantasy, I'm going to recommend to you. You need to read this book. It'll get you into the fantasy vibes. It's going into marriage material. Then we have Tame the Heart. This was another cowboy romance that I read this year, and honestly, I can't really remember what happened. It was a girl who had a heart condition but wanted to live life to the fullest, so she was travelling around America and ended up in a ranch helping them with their social media. Yes, I'm going to say one night stand. Honestly, most cowboy romance books are one night stands for me. There's very few that really hit for me, but I enjoy them. I enjoy them while I'm reading them. Then we have Blood of Hercules. This is one of the more recent ones. This was actually the last book that I read in 2024, and it was a really good one to finish on. I can see this series being really good following on. This book was really just setting us up in the world and introducing us to all the characters that are going to be important. The writing in this book is not like anything that I've read before, and also the world was not what I thought it was going to be. It was very dystopian, but with Greek mythology and gods and monsters. And it's also why choose. But you don't get too much of the why shoes in the first book. I believe that's coming. I'm actually going to put this into one night stand for now, but it has potential. Then we've got Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the book that follows Powerless, and wow, I liked that both of the characters were on an even playing field for this book. However, it was definitely a filler book, and it just wasn't my type. I needed more tension, I needed more yearning, and I just didn't get that. Then we have Butcher and Blackbird. This is a romance between two serial killers. And if you are a true crime girly, you'll love that book. But me, I'm not a true crime girly. I get scared at things like that. And the way it was kind of really dark, but also humorous, kind of threw me. So for this one, not my type, but if you love true crime, I can see you being obsessed with that book. Next we have A False Start, which is the third one in the Gold Rush Ranch series, and this one was my favourite one. It was kind of a redemption arc for one of the characters from one of the other books, and I loved it. I was obsessed with the romance in this. I loved the spice, I loved the whole story with the horses, and perfection. I'm going to put this one in marriage material. It has to go there. Then we have Powerful by Lauren Roberts. I actually did like this one. It gave us a bit of backstory from a character from Powerless, but also it runs in tandem with Powerless, so you can tandem read between the two. I'm looking forward to the characters in this coming into the final instalment of the series, so we'll see how that goes, but I did enjoy it at the time, so I'm going to pop that in one night stand. Next we have Christmas Tree Farm. This is the third one in the Dream Harbour series, and again, I should have DNF'd. I should have ghosted this one. Yeah, it just wasn't for me. Then we have Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. I am a Julian girly through and through. Julian, I want amazing things for you, and you're absolutely one of the most perfect men in the world. You're going in marriage material. I love you. Then we have Kensuke's Kingdom. This is a kid's book. Andrew wanted me to read this book, and when we were in Paris, we saw it in the bookshop that we went, so it was very rushed, I felt, at the end. However, it was 200 pages, and I understand why there wasn't a lot of depth to it, because it is a children's book. So I'm going to put this one in not my type, but if you've got any children, this is actually quite a nice story. Then we have Goldfinch by Raven Kennedy. I love the Plated Prisoner series. It is one of my top tier series ever. This was the final book in the series, and I don't know where some of the plot came from. A lot of things seem to have come out of nowhere for this book. However, I love you, Raven Kennedy, and I love Oren, and I love Slade. Slade is like my top tier book boyfriend, so I'm going to put it in marriage material because I still loved it. I loved the ending. There was just some things I was like, where did that come from? Okay, next we have Blood and Steel. I am annoyed at myself that I have not completed this series. I really need to get on this because I loved this first book. It gave me Witcher vibes with monster hunters and monsters, and I'm obsessed with the main characters. So I'm going to put this one in marriage material. I loved it. Next we have Heir of Broken Fate. If you love ACOTAR, this gives very similar vibes to ACOTAR. I thought it was a very easy read and I liked where it was going. I just wanted a bit more of a different plotline that was within this, which I'm hoping I'm going to get with the second book. So the second book is on my TBR. I'm going to put One Night Stand for now. Next we have A Pocket of Lies. This is the first fantasy arc that I got sent last year and honestly it was actually kind of good. I don't know why I'm surprised. We have a thief who owes money to the thief boss, who breaks into a royal ball, who is planning to steal things from people so that she can pay back this evil person, ends up saving the crown prince, and then gets a mission from the king to go and one of the kingdom's enemies. Honestly, great. I'm actually excited to continue on that series. So One Night Stand for now. Next we have A Fate Inked in Blood. This is a Viking fantasy romance. The world building and the fantasy system is very easy to understand. It's very beginner friendly, I thought. However, I did predict the ending. It wasn't like a huge shock for me at the end with what happened. However, I enjoyed the vibes. And for that reason, I'm going to put One Night Stand. Next we have Wild Love. I love this one. This is the first book in the Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver. It was single dad romance. If you didn't know, the entire series is going to be single dad romances. And this one I particularly loved because the kid was a teenager. And it's probably the first one that I've read where the kid was older and not really young. And I loved that. So this one is going in marriage material. Honestly, Ford Grant, I love you. Next we have Forged by Malice, which is the third book in the Beast of the Briar series, and these are a fantasy why choose. It starts off as a Beauty and the Beast retelling. However, we've moved on from that to this book, and although this book followed like my favourite male out of the series, it gave just mostly smut, which is fine. I loved the smut. However, I was expecting more plot and I wanted more from it. But I did enjoy it. I don't really know how to rate this. It's kind of in between Not My Type and One Night Stand. But I don't want to put it in Not My Type, so I'm going to put it in One Night Stand. Literally. We had fun. Then we've got When the Moon Hatched. This was a cult book for Book Talk this year, and I'm absolutely not surprised. The world building in it is immense. The world that Sarah A. Parker created was so intricate and well thought out, and the ending, I cannot wait for the next book. Honestly, I'm going to put this one in either marriage material or tattoo worthy. I mean, it has dragons. I'm going to put it in marriage material for now, but I'm expecting huge things with the next one. Then we have Promised in Fire. I read the first two books in this trilogy, Promised in Fire and Something in Frost. That in itself should tell you what I felt about these books. Again, this was Dragon Shifters, and Dragon Shifters not done right. The actual romance and plot read really young, although there was spice in it, and I just should have not continued the series. I'm not going to read the third one, but when I was reading the second one, I was like, I really need to stop. But I just kept going. So yeah, we're going to go Should Have Ghosted. Then we have Out of the Gate. This is the prequel to the Gold Rush Ranch series. It is a novella, and it follows the grandparents that started the ranch. It was age gap. He was like a lot older than her, and he knew her when she was a kid, and he was like a teenager, which I didn't vibe with. So I'm going to put Not My Type, although I love the Gold Rush Ranch series. Next we have Kingdom of Ash. There is no debate on where this is going. Tattoo worthy. This is the greatest book that I've ever read in my life. I will hear no criticism about this series, and I actually am planning to get a tattoo for this book and this series as a whole. So straight up into tattoo worthy. Then we have the Shepherd King duology, which is One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. Yes, yes. This is a gothic fantasy romance, and oh my god, it did not follow the usual construction of a normal fantasy romance. I wasn't expecting anything that happened. The magic system was so unique, the world building was so unique, and honestly, it was probably one of the best duologies I've read. It also suited being a duology. It is not one that you probably could have got like an entire series out of. It was just perfect within those 2 books. I'm actually going to put this one in tattoo worthy. Honestly, I think about it quite a lot. And lastly, we have another cowboy romance. We have Holding the Reins by Paisley Hope. This one I loved because the cowboy in it was also a hockey player. So we got hockey player and cowboy. I loved that for this book. And it was such a good read. And I'm actually going to put this in marriage material because I loved it. So there we have it. Those were all of the books and series that I read in 2024, which made a total of 86 books, which I'm so proud of myself about. And I felt that I was reasonably harsh with my rankings. I didn't want to go easy on any of the books, but I had fun with most of them. So, at last, the 4th time lucky, we have managed to complete the tier ranking for 2024. If you like this video, please go give it a thumbs up, if for the only reason that I've filmed this video 4 times for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.